So the big question is this: how do most agents who struggle to get the information that most successful agents hoard to themselves grow and prosper without this information? That's the big question, and this video cast is the answer. Welcome to Real Estate Rockstars. I'm your host, Pat Hyben. All right, Rockstar Nation, we have the dynamic duo on today. These guys are back by popular demand. They've both been on the show before separately, and we've been collaborating on some things lately, and I'm excited because no matter what we talk about, it's all meat and potatoes. It's all good stuff on how to make more commissions and sell more houses. So let's jump right into this, guys, because there's some exciting stuff to talk about. I got Keri Shull and Dan Lesniak on the line, and I'm excited. So welcome to Real Estate Rockstars, guys.
Thanks, Pat. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's great to be back, and I'm excited about this show.
Hey, why don't you guys real quick give everybody a little bios on you in case they didn't hear your individual episodes in the past.
Sure. Dan, do you want to go first?
Sure. I started in real estate about 5.5, 6 years ago now. I had a background in the Navy, was a defense contractor after that, got bored with that, got into real estate, and it worked so well. As a part-time gig, I had to quit my job a few months later, and my first year I sold about 22 million. So it was a great year. I had a lot of fun doing it. I started to build out a team. About a year later, I met Keri, and we merged our personal and our business lives, and so now we've got a big team. I'll let Keri talk more about that when she talks about her background.
All right, go ahead, Keri.
Okay, so I went to Penn State, started my real estate career in new home sales, and then transitioned into selling condos. And in 2008, when the timing was fantastic, I decided to get into general brokerage. And my aspiration from the moment I got in was to build out a big team. And so from that point in 2010, I hired my first assistant. In 2015, we did about 361 transactions and about 250 million. So our growth at the point that the team started, I think I had done 21 that year. It was a pretty dramatic explosion. And I attribute a lot of that to some of the training we're going to talk about with our buyer agent team and our listing team, but our buyer agent team does the majority of our business.
Yeah, and so how many agents do you have?
So we have 30 people on our team right now. Half of them are agents, and about 8 of those are buyer agents.
Wow. Okay, so yeah, that's great. And what was your volume last year?
We did 220 million.
220. Okay, excellent. Very neat. Very neat. Okay, so and today you hired 3 new agents today, right? Dan was telling me.
We did. Yeah, we're very excited about growth, and it's going really well. 2018 is going to be an epic year.
And the exciting thing is most of our new agent hires recently, and the older agents on the team came from the outside the industry. So we're hiring people that are not in real estate. On average, their first year, they're making 80 grand first year, which is about 8 times the national average for first year. As a team, they're averaging about 145 or so, and the people that have been with us for longer than 3 years, they're all above 300. 2 of the people that are featured in the buyer course that we're going to talk about today are made close to 400 last year. We think they'll be at 500 or so this year. So, it's great that we're selling as much as we do, but even greater that we're helping, agents
make $500,000 where they
Yeah.
came from jobs making 65, right?
Yeah, it's it's changing people's lives. So
And like the people you hired today, like where'd they come from?
One person came from the car industry, so the car salesman. Another lady we hired was an appraiser, so real estate background, but definitely not in sales. And Keri, do you know where Hiwa came from?
He was a referral from Alvin, right. But I can't remember exactly what his background was in. Some type of sales.
Some type of sales. So the benefit, right, is that you're not competing with other companies, right, and other teams for agents, because all your agents are coming off the street from other jobs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they're able to make a lot more money, and we actually just put in place a system where we can recruit both types of agents. So a lot of the reason that we're able to take new people is because we have a salary plus bonus plan. They get benefits, they get the same kind of cushion that they expect in other sales jobs. And then we have another model where they can just explode their income if they have faith in themselves and want to do 100% commission. So we're able to really hire from both sides of the world now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And the new.
And the best thing about it is they're able to see people that they can look up to within the team that aren't you, right? Because everyone thinks the rainmakers and the owners of the team are special in they can do it, but I can't sort of mentality. But when they see, here's an agent that joined us 3 years ago and used to be an appraiser making 80 grand a year, and last year she made 400, they can do that too. It's a real life mentor, a real life person that is not you, and I mean, that's a sales pitch right there. It's like, done. Where do I sign up?
Right. Yep. Yeah. So another thing that's changing, and just putting it out there, we're looking at it to that regard. We're trying to help people model the kind of lifestyle that they want on our team as well. So one of the pieces of feedback we got this year is the people who are the top producers. One of our top producers did 40 million of volume, right?
Wow.
And so she was a little burnt out at the end of the year, and we looked at it and we said, well, why don't we help you? We've done it. We know how to delegate responsibilities. Why don't we help you build out a team under you so you can do 100 million and make more money and have more work-life balance and more satisfaction? And so we think that setting that example for all of the agents out there on our team and in the industry, that you can have it all. You can have kids and work-life balance and have a team just like we do. We're leveraging that example on our team now.
Yeah, I mean, even if I lived an hour away, I think I'd move to your area or drive an hour to be part of the team. When you could have an opportunity after 3 years to make $400,000, I mean, where can that happen? Right.
Right. It's very rare. You usually have to risk to make that kind of money. You usually have to risk your life savings. Right?
Yeah.
Set yourself up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you kick them in the butt day one, right? So they don't waste any time.
We get them going fast. Yep. And part of that is exactly the exercises we go through in the buyer course. I mean, when you really have an understanding of how the buyer thinks and how to help the buyer, you're different than most of the industry. And I would say that's where our agents are different. They leverage that information step by step by step.
Yeah. So what Keri's talking about is Keri, Dan, and I, as well as several of their agents, created a course called the Certified Buyer Agent. And it's a very deep, detailed course. We, recorded this thing for hours and hours and hours. And we took it, we started in their office. We went to a house and recorded in the house with the agent pretending I was pretending I was a consumer walking into an open house. She was the agent. We had their head ISA. We had their top agents doing different pieces, and we've created this course for Rebus University that we are going to release, that we are releasing today, the date that this podcast comes out, which is Dan's birthday, February 9th. and we're going to give some great a coupon code so you guys can get a discount on that for listening to this. And when we're going to go deep into it, so we're going to talk about one of the most important parts of the course, which is priority access, and that's the fancy term for, finding off-market properties for buyers, because in many areas we have a hot seller's market, and buyers are fighting for houses, and these guys have been able to double dip and find off-market properties like nobody else can do. And there's a secret sauce to it. There's a secret to it. It's not a cliche with them. With a lot of agents, it's a cliche. We're like, hey, would you be interested in off-market properties? We have a list, but it's BS. They really don't have a list. They're just saying that, right? Mm-hmm. And these guys really do have a list. So we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to talk about Dan's new book. So Dan, what's the name of your new book?
Sure. So, last year I came out with the hyper local, hyper fast real estate agent. It talks about my first year in real estate. How in 1 year I went from 0 to 22 million. That book tells the stories like client by client, transaction by transaction, what I did to market, get the client, close the deal, and how to create value. So on February 9th as well, big day. We got the buyer agent course, my birthday. I'm coming out with a follow-up to this book. It's a companion guide workbook. So it goes through, talks about the principles in that book. It's kind of like a question and answer and journal, space to write. So I start off looking at, what motivates you, what are some things that if you changed would have some, big impact on your future. I go through a process I call the Charles Dickens process. And then I kind of go step by step tactically, like how to segment a market, pick your target, how to position yourself to create more value, how to get clients, leverage success. So I walk through basically everything I did my first year, and wrap it up with a section on goal setting and just effective techniques that I've used, continue to use to set goals, get accountability. So I think it's a great book to use as a goal setting, business planning, and could really help leverage your business. So we're gonna be launching a promotion, giving the book away to people that sign up for the buyer agent course, and I'm excited about that.
Okay, great. And so we're gonna post all the links to everything at the end of the show. We're gonna, once the show comes out, everything will be there. What's the name of the book?
It is going to be called the Hyperlocal Hyperfast Real Estate Agent Companion Guide.
Oh wow! So I'm not going to name this episode after the end of the. And you know what I'm going to name it? CBA. So if you guys just go to hibandigital.com/CBA, Certified Buyer Agent, the link to the book and everything will be there. And we'll talk about more when we sign off. But well, that's great. That's exciting. It seems like a book that anybody could read, even if you're an agent in another country. We're in 83 countries now, and I almost visualize, if you're in Australia or anywhere, you could utilize this book for your market, right?
I have a quick comment. Reading Dan's companion guide inspired us to go into DC. We've been very Virginia focused, and when I read it, it was like light bulbs were going off in my mind, and it was incredibly effective for me, and I'm his wife. So I'm excited to see the business that comes out and we create from the companion guide ourselves.
That's great. That's cool. Well, that's awesome. Well, good to hear. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about priority access. First of all, what is it, and how do you use it?
Sure. Do you want me to take that one, Dan?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Okay. So when we look at what's important to a buyer and seller and try and get inside their minds, for a buyer, the one thing we see in our market, there's consistent, whether inventory is, extremely low or low, it's never high here, right? So the problem most buyers have, whether they're a first-time home buyer or a move-up buyer or even a downsizer, is that they don't want to end up without all the features they want in their home. And sometimes what they're finding on the MLS is just not fitting the bill. So they feel like they're settling. They want to make sure that there's nothing else out there. And I'm sure a lot of people around the country and the world can relate to that. Buyers want to find the right thing. And so they drag their feet, even when some of the options that are out there may be the best options. So for us, we go through a process called the reality check analysis. That's actually one of the exercises we go through in the course. And that helps you to really dial into someone's perfect situation and the perfect house that is actually available in their price point. Okay. And that's critical. If you're going to spend time and money finding off markets, you have to know that what the client wants does in fact exist. Does that make sense?
I want you to think about the word toolbox. What is a toolbox? A toolbox is a box full of tools that you use to build something great. At Real Estate Rockstars, we've created our own free toolbox. So everybody that comes on the show as a guest brings a tool with them, and we plow them all into this toolbox, and we give it away for our viewing audience to basically use as they wish. Everything we put in there is an actionable item that can be downloaded, can be printed, can be used immediately. And we got things like scripts and dialogues, checklists for teams, checklists to keep agents accountable, referral forms that are filled out at settlement to get referrals by your buyers and sellers. Everything you could think of that you could use on a regular basis about real estate is included in this toolbox. And it's helping agents worldwide sell more houses and make their jobs a lot easier and processes much more efficient. And the thing is, it's absolutely free. All you got to do is go to hibandigital.com/toolbox or text the word toolbox to 444-999. That's toolbox 444-999. Do it now. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So once we've verified that what they want does exist and we've guided them to the right criteria that you can find, part of that exercise is you find out what might not be on the market that they're looking for based on what's recently sold. Okay? Because if we know it's sold, we know it's in their price point, and we know it matches their criteria, that's effective in creating a smaller, identifiable market to go after. Right? So as an example, if you're dealing with a first-time home buyer and they want a 2-bedroom, 2-bath that has a den, in our market, that's a rare thing to find. But we would go through and say, okay, you want to be a mile from the Keri and Dan metro and you want to spend, X amount of money. What's sold that matches that criteria? And then that would help us identify the exact tiers in each condo building that we could find that product for the client. Then we would go about reaching out to the sellers to solicit those off-market opportunities. And so what I think is valuable to take away from the course and from Dan's book, there's a lot of stories about how he did that in his success in the first year. You can't just stop by saying, well, I have you set up for a search and let's see what comes on the MRIS. If that's your messaging to the buyer, they can go out and use Redfin. They can use Zillow and do it on their own. They don't need you.
They can use any agent in the market, right?
Right.
And I guarantee you they got 12 of them already on the sending them free updates, right? So
exactly. So it's truly valuable is when you're going the extra mile. So a couple of the techniques that we use, as an example, if you go and look up in your MLS what rentals are about to expire. You can see the date that they signed the renter, right? So then you can contact the seller and say, hey, would you consider at the end of the lease selling instead of renting it again? That's a segment of the population that many times agents are not going after. For sale by owners, expireds, withdrawns, also a great segment of the market. If it expired 2 years ago, chances are they were thinking about selling, right? So logic would have it, if you were to contact that population, that's a great population of people that if you bring them a motivated buyer, it's a win-win.
I love this. Guys, and I hope you're writing this down. Two bottom line bullet points. Number one, going on the solds to make sure that this is a realistic thing, right? You're essentially super qualifying the buyer, right? Because, if you're really going to find them an off market, first of all, you've obviously exhausted what's on the market, or they've obviously exhausted what's on the market.
Mm-hmm.
So going off the solds, it says, well, yes, it is possible, or, you know, that thing you want doesn't exist for that. You can see they're selling for this or whatever. So it doesn't make sense for me to try to build an off-market list for you if we're not going to be able to find it anyways, right?
Well, and what I see that most real estate agents do that I believe is isolating them from the client and making them the enemy. Instead of guiding them to that information, they say, oh, yes, I got the client. The client loves me. Fantastic. They shake their hand and send them out the door. And what the client's waiting for is the agent to come through with a property for them to see that matches their criteria. But you're dead in the water when you send them out the door and then you keep sending them things that don't match their criteria, because ultimately they feel like you didn't listen to them and you didn't pay enough attention to make them successful. On the other hand, if you go through the solds, because you as the agent may already know the market well enough to know, okay, what they want doesn't exist, you just throw them in your car like the old school agent and drive them around and expect you're going to spend a few weekends in the car and then they'll get the picture. You're wasting a ton of their time and your own time. And in our experience in our market, people don't want to do that anymore. They want to get right to the point, which is fantastic for agents out there, and they want to buy something that matches their criteria. So once you walk them through that exercise, you may need to put them at choice. Hey, do you want to spend $50,000 more and be a 5-minute walk from the metro, or do you want to stay in your budget and walk 15 minutes? What would be more important to you? And then once you guide them through that exercise, that's when you're going to start looking for off markets, because it's hard and it's expensive. So if you're going to go through that effort, exactly what Pat's saying, make sure you're going through it with the right set of criteria.
Yeah. And your head ISA, what was his name?
Dustin.
Dustin. Okay. So, you know, one of the biggest ahas of sitting down with Dustin and recording him for this class was, he said to me, he said, Pat, I've been doing this for years and I've talked to thousands and thousands of buyers. And he said, unequivocally, beyond a shadow of a doubt, there is nothing that exists as far as a script that is more powerful than the off-market script. He says, and there won't be anything that comes down the pike that's more powerful than the off-market script. And he says, I don't care if their spouse, if their husband is a realtor, you can take them from that husband if you have a property that husband doesn't have. It does. The loyalty goes out the window. I like that agent goes out the window. That agent has spent years showing us houses and we haven't found anything, will go out the window. Mm-hmm. If you have something that agent doesn't have, it's just that powerful, right? It's just unbelievable how it works.
So what you're saying, Pat, is hilarious, because we just did a testimonial video with a husband and wife. The wife is a real estate agent, and she just did a testimonial for one of our agents because they found the house of their dreams, and she'd been looking for a year and a half. So that is real, right? When you get good at this,
wow,
you can, yeah. And the wife is on video saying, wow, like they did what other agents couldn't do. She didn't say what I couldn't do, but what she wasn't able to do for herself, we came through and produced, and they live in their dream home now.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about building this. So this is not just, you know, something we're talking about ambiguously. We want to give like exacts on this show for free.
Sure.
Walk me through, how do I build? I'm listening in Tupelo, Mississippi. I want to build an off-market list so that when I talk to people, I can confidently say, I have a list, Nana Boo-Boo, I have a list that the other people don't have. Tell me how to do it play by play.
Okay. So I think it's creating pillars of success and different pillars where you can achieve getting off markets. So the easiest, lowest hanging fruit is anyone that's contacted you in your database. Your database has to be extremely organized, right? And we could teach a whole class on organizing your database, okay? But if your database is organized, it's very easy to harvest that fruit when you have the right buyer. So that's simple, right? With that comes being really good at listing, seller-focused marketing in all different capacities. But for a lot of people out there, I know they have those people in their database and they're not leveraging them right now. Okay. Then the next is using the data that's available to you on the MLS. So once you identify what they're looking for, look at for sale by owners, withdrawals, and expireds, right? Look at the ones that are rented right now that you can see when their lease is coming up, or you can't. If you have a buyer that wants something very specific, but they're flexible on the time frame, look at anything that's rented, right? And go after that segment. And then Dan, do you want to talk about a couple of the things that you referenced in your book with how you targeted, as an example, the townhome communities that some of your condo buyers wanted to buy into?
Yeah, the townhome community is a great story. It's actually one of my first clients ever. They were looking for a townhome. There's none on the market. It's a very, townhomes are just in our area few and far between. When they do come up, they go quickly. And there was one, it basically, we kind of walked down their dream list of what they wanted, and there was one community really that would work that had 90 townhomes. This is like a 2-block walk to the most popular metro. And one came up for sale there, actually, as a for sale by owner. I showed it to them, and they're like, you know what, there's just not enough light in this. So based on that criteria, I was like, okay, that knocks out like anything that's an interior unit. So we know we need a corner unit, so we get all 3 sides of light because they wanted more light in it. I knew they wanted a certain size, so I basically searched the tax records, above this amount of square footage, this shape in unit with the 3 sides of light. So I went from 89 potential homes to 11. So I basically found out what they wanted. Wrote a note to those 11 owners. It was just very generic. It was, dear townhome owner, I've got a client looking for your exact townhome. There's been nothing on the market for a long time. Interest rates are low, inventory is low. You might be surprised at the value. So even if you weren't thinking about selling, if it's of any interest, give me a call, and we can save you time, and you don't have to get your house ready to show. So kind of a long shot, but of those 11 townhomes, I actually had 4 people contact me. I sold my clients one of them. I listed another one 3 months later, and then a third one I actually helped sell off market like 3 years later. So I created great value for that person. The people that they bought from were happy as well. They became clients. They didn't even interview the top agent who'd been in that neighborhood for 10 years because they knew I had a buyer. So they never even interviewed him. I can probably trace, if I really worked at it over 5 years, from the referral and follow-on deals, I could probably trace about 25 or 30 million in sales to that
Wow.
now. So, and it all really just stemmed from the principle of finding out what the client wanted and then going and finding a way to get that, even if it's not in the MLS.
Yeah. And it goes back to what Keri said. If someone's told you, if you show them the sold and ask them, would you have bought this sold? And they say yes, man, that's a real deal buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what else? What are some other things we can do to build this list?
So another thing I would say that's easy is collaborate with agents who have recently sold in that area. We have an extensive network of agents, and we train all of our agents to say, okay, your client wants an N unit that's a very hard to find N unit. Who sold that in the last 8 years? Who represented buyers? And dig deep, call them. Hey, I noticed you sold this listing. Do you happen to have anything else coming up? And they love the idea of being able to get it sold with no hassle to their client, right? So in many cases, they're going to be thrilled about making that deal come together. And they might reach out to people that they have a relationship with to see if there's any chance that a sale will happen. So I think the agent community is tremendous. And it kind of depends on what your client's looking for, how big of a list that is. So in some cases, we pick up the phone and call all the agents. In other cases, we send out an email and try and get really specific.
One thing we mentioned for sale by owners, but we didn't talk about Zillow Make Me Moves. So on
yeah,
Zillow,
let's talk about that. Yeah.
on Zillow, there's a category called Make Me Move. A seller can go on there and put a price in, or if they own the house, and they're basically saying, I don't necessarily want to sell right now, but if I get this price, that would make me move. So you can go through that list and contact those people. Typically, when someone goes on there, they're putting in a number that's higher than the market value. But it doesn't hurt to contact them, tell them you have buyers in the area looking, and kind of firm up the price and just start to build that relationship. That same townhome community I just talked about, I during that process, I also contacted a Make Me Move in there. They were above market price at the time, but 2 years later, the market got to their Make Me Move price, and I had a buyer for them, and help them buy a new construction home, and then help a buyer get their current home. So that Zillow Make Me Move is a good way to start to build out that list as well.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
a lot of people don't think that's as strong as it is. They think, oh, that's a bunch of people that aren't serious.
Well, they're raising their hand and saying, "Hey, make me move." So in my mind, that makes them more serious than the other people out there.
Yeah, cool. Okay, what else? What else can we do to build this off-market list, this priority access?
So for some people out there that have an inside sales team or a buyer agent group that's really motivated to make phone calls and door knock, those are two other ways. So if we know, okay, we have an open house in an area, we call and invite all the clients around that open house to attend the open house. And what we're essentially doing is looking for, if we sell that house, we're all obviously going to meet other buyers there. So we're looking for other sellers that might want to sell and proactively trying to find those off markets before we even meet the buyers. Same is true for just engaging them by sending them mail, right? Inviting them to the open. So you can do it by calling, you can do it by door knocking. With calling, there's different technology. The technology that we use pulls within a certain geographic location people's cell phones, and sometimes it pulls 4 or 5 and you have to call. So you have to be pretty persistent here. But the moral of the story is, for those people out there that want to change their business this year, it's not that hard. It just takes a little bit of focus, determination to do it. And then door knocking, you're building a relationship. So who doesn't want to be invited to see a home that's going on the market down the street? Likely the people that are going to step up and say, oh yeah, I want to come, or are they thinking about selling potentially? Or do they know someone in the neighborhood who is? So you're just building those bridges to create all the off-market opportunities.
I want you to think about the word toolbox. What is a toolbox? A toolbox is a box full of tools that you use to build something great. At Real Estate Rockstars, we've created our own free toolbox. So everybody that comes on the show as a guest brings a tool with them, and we plow them all into this toolbox, and we give it away for our viewing audience to basically use as they wish. Everything we put in there is an actionable item that can be downloaded, can be printed, can be used immediately. And we got things like scripts and dialogues, checklists for teams, checklists to keep agents accountable, referral forms that are filled out at settlement to get referrals by your buyers and sellers. Everything you could think of that you could use on a regular basis about real estate is included in this toolbox. And it's helping agents worldwide sell more houses and make their jobs a lot easier and processes much more efficient. And the thing is, it's absolutely free. All you got to do is go to hibandigital.com/toolbox or text the word toolbox to 444-999. That's toolbox 444-999. Do it now. Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, and that's great. And I talked to an agent earlier today, Kelly Cook out of Phoenix, Arizona. He's a huge team of agents, and he has all the agents call for an hour a day every morning, Monday through Thursday, on a speed dialer. And I can envision something like that. If you have a team like that, that prospects like that, and you just stood up in the morning and say, okay, Frank has a priority access client that needs A, B, C, and D, opportunity for you guys to make a quick commission, help him out. I mean, it just gives them focus on who to call. Hey, and when they call, they're not. It's not a bunch of BS. They're not calling and saying, hey, I'm just calling to see if you thought about selling now or in the near future. They're calling to say, hey, we got a legit buyer that has looked at the solds in the neighborhood or in the zip code and said he would buy your house if it were for sale. Would you consider?
Mm-hmm.
And they're feeling so much more confident that it's a real thing. Does that make sense? It's just easier cold call.
Yeah, they're able to have a legitimate conversation and follow through on their commitment to the seller.
Yeah.
Yep.
And okay, and what else? What are some other ideas of building this list?
So going to gatekeepers sometimes or has worked for me in the past before. So like getting to know the front desk, security, assistant managers, those types in condo buildings. I would just go to them, talk to them about the buyers I was working with and what they were looking for. And a lot of times those people are the first ones to find out that something is, going for sale because they see everybody walking in and out of that building every day. And a lot of them are pretty chatty because they got nothing else to do but sit around for 8 hours, so they know. So I would build a good relationship with those people, pop by, bring them coffee, that kind of stuff. And a lot of times I would hear like, oh, so and so in unit 502 is thinking about moving. So then that person would get a note under the door from me, mentioning that I had clients looking, and that led to a lot of sales as well. So just kind of having other people looking out for you that come in contact with a lot of homeowners. We've also had a ton of success with Craigslist. So
tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's just looking on Craigslist in the for sale by owner section. A lot of times people will post on there if they don't want to get the pictures and all that stuff and put it on like a for sale by owner site or anything like that. They'll just kind of toss a number out there on Craigslist, similar to Zillow Make Me Move. So just looking on there every day, seeing what's popping up in your neighborhood and contacting those people is a good way to stay in touch and build that list.
Good stuff.
So
Anything else?
Is everybody out there ready to go run and make some money?
Yeah, I mean, everybody should. You should really spend time every day trying to build your off-market list, or or hire someone to do it, to build this off-market list, even if it's not that great. Just the confidence it will give you of being able to use the script so that it's not a lie, I think is huge, right? And I think it's huge. And it's so much beats any other script out there that will work for them.
Well, and the follow-on is very important too, Pat. So let's imagine that you decide to work with me because I've told you I could get priority access to properties, right? We just listed probably 10 different activities you can do to generate more on that list, right?
Yep.
So what's going to happen in the process of going out and trying to build that list? You're going to execute on those activities. What's important is to communicate back to the client. In this case, Pat's the example. Hey, Pat, I want you to know I did this today. I went ahead and called blah, 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 blah. This is what happened. These were the results. I'm working hard for you, and the right home is going to come up. So if you stay in communication in that way with the client, they're like talking to their buddy at work and saying, yeah, my agent's doing X, Y, and Z. And what naturally happens, they're like, my agent isn't doing any of that. So you end up getting a bunch of referrals from communicating what you're doing because what you're doing is so different than what they're used to.
Absolutely, absolutely, and so that leads us to the course. Well, Keri, why don't you tell everybody what we did that day when we filmed the course, what we went through. I know it was a 14-hour day from start to finish,
It was.
but but what we ran through, what we got on tape there that they can look forward to.
Okay. Now I have a new baby, so my memory is is not the
Well, we
best.
basically
I'm gonna
started from everything buyer, you know.
A to Z. I mean,
Yeah.
how we start the process from the call, what we use to get that client in front of us in a face-to-face appointment, all the way through the initial presentation. We break that down into 3 phases. So it's the initial kind of needs analysis that we do to understand exactly what's important to the client, and then the buyer presentation that we use. And once we go through that, which we'd never call a presentation because buyers don't want to be presented to, but the process, right? And then we walk them through the reality check analysis to make sure that what they want exists in the market, and skip all of that weekend BS in cars. So you can cut right to the chase and start looking for what's most important to the client. And then we talk about how to follow up with them. We talk about how to get the priority access, how to actually get them in contract, how to agree to a price, how to show homes, all of the strategies that you need to know how to close with delicacy. We talk about that a lot, through how to keep the client for life and how to generate more referrals throughout the process. So really, it's an inclusive look at everything that we train on.
Wow. Yeah. And it's amazing, guys. If you want to, like, you know, if you're wondering how they can take a car salesman or they can take somebody off the street, right? And then you've got some people that were engineers, you know, were all kinds of different backgrounds, jobs, everything, right? And turn them into massively successful real estate agents. And of course, most all agents starting off the street start with the buyer process, right? How they go into this system, right, from day one, and they're taught, do this, do this, do this, and they come out heroes. We were able to get behind the scenes and like talk about intimate details. Like I'm talking intimate, like the 45-minute buyer meeting before they even show houses. All the scripts used, and of course Keri and Dan gave me all the downloads of all the documents they use and the checklists that they use, tons of stuff you could download and use in your own team, with your own team. We already have agents from around the country asking about the course and asking about, you know, how can I take it myself, and then require every team member that comes on my team to take it. And if that's something you want to do, I'd encourage you to buy it for yourself and take it, and then reach out to us, and we'll give you a discount on each and every person on your team so that they could get a certificate too. And it's a great course where you could just send one of your agents into a room, or tell them basically, go take this course and come back with the certificate. You're not going to get a lead until you bring the certificate that you've graduated. And the accountability piece on it is we use a 5 and 5 method. It's not always 5 and 5, but this is our goal, is where we cut it up into 5-minute increments. And then every 5-minute increments, we have 5 questions. Now they have to get 4 out of 5 of these questions right until they get to the next module. And that's how the whole course runs. And so we go from the intimate appointment to the intimate, you know, open house. What happens play by play when you walk into an open house? Of course, the call, every little aspect of working with buyers, all the way down to settlement, asking for referrals throughout the process, everything that you could think of. We have totally broken it down to a point where if you take the course, you will have to succeed.
If you can't double your income,
Yeah.
I mean, you should be able to double your buy-side income from taking the course. There's no question. And for team leaders out there, if you have your people do this, the amount of time you're going to save training them will be worth a ton of money to you. They'll just be productive faster and be able to go out and generate incomes for themselves, which when I talk to team leaders, one of the biggest challenges they have, they hire when they're already so busy that they simply don't have the time to train. And so the number of agents that will succeed by just sitting with you in the car and absorbing what you're doing, and then they're going to go out and clone you, that's not realistic. That's not how it actually happens. They need to understand why you're doing what you're doing and how it's working. And most of you, by the time you hire, you don't have the time to do that effectively. So when I heard that Pat was doing this on the listing side, I mean, we bought it immediately. We put our whole listing team through it. Now when someone starts with us, they take the whole listing course before they start training with our team. And it's fantastic. I think it's a game changer.
Great. Yep. And I agree, obviously. So, and as you know, or may not know, everything at Rebus University comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you guys get in here and you think it's too hard or you think it's BS, just tell us and we'll give you your money back. No questions asked. No questions asked.
And then Dan and I will send you our tax return just so that you are very clear that you're wrong.
That's right. That's right. That's awesome. Yeah. So anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put links, first of all, to Dan and Keri. If you guys want to reach out to them and say hello or send a tweet that says, thank you for coming on the show.
If you're interested in making $400,000 and you think you're amazing at what you do, we'd love to have you.
Move to Alexandria, Virginia, and they'll find a place for you and put you up. I mean, plenty of people complaining that they can't find jobs. Well, come on down. They've taken all walks and turned them into heroes.
Let's make it rain.
So hibandigital.com/CBA. That's hibandigital.com/CBA. So what I'm going to do is, of course, I'm going to put everything that we talked about, and I'm going to put a link to Dan's book. If you just want to buy the book direct on the website, we're going to put a link to that so you can get it at a bare minimum. But if you want to buy the course, of course, we're going to give it to you for free. And in addition to that, to listeners of this podcast, we're going to give you $500 off the course. For a limited time only, you're going to get $500 off the course. And I'm going to give you a special site to go to get the $500 coupon and to get $500 off the course. So what you do is you go to hibandigital.com/buyer. hibandigital.com/buyer, BUYER. Or if you're just on your phone and you want to get a text with the coupon that you can use later, text the word buyer, BUYER, to 345-345. That's text the word buyer to 345-345, and we'll give you a $500 off coupon that you could use now or anytime in the future to take the certified buyer agent course. Guys, listen, this has been a blast. I always have so much fun talking to you, and I will definitely be in touch, and happy birthday, Dan.
Thank you. This has been great. I'm excited.
Thank you for watching Real Estate Rockstars. Please give us a review wherever you're watching or wherever you're listening. We eat feedback for breakfast, and I don't care whether you give me a 1-star review or a 5-star review. I just want the review. I want to know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. Would love to improve things. Hey, and listen, please subscribe. The more subscribers we get, and the more reviews we get, the better guests we'll get for you in the future. Feel free to reach out to me anywhere on social media. Just type in my name. I'm everywhere, and I look forward to meeting you in the digital world. Have a great day, and thanks again for listening to Real Estate Rockstars.